So book recommendations, I like to ask everyone, what books I would recommend for any PM of any level. What would you recommend?
Sure. So I've just started Inspired by Marty Kagan. It's sitting right here, right in front of me. I haven't gotten too deep into it. I know it's like 12 years old and it's like the Bible, but I just haven't read it yet. Two kids and different priorities. But yeah, there's definitely some things I would recommend. I loved Range by I think it's David Epstein. It was awesome. This idea of, you know, of early specialization being sort of the only key to mastery. And actually he talks in that book, counter thesis on how, really early specialization is actually the exception rather than the rule, right? So you get these great anecdotes throughout about Tiger Woods versus Roger Federer and all these other things. So that's definitely one I would recommend. I loved Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. That was great. This idea of leadership lessons from the SEALs. Like, I think my job's high pressure, and then I'd read some of this stuff, and I'm like, oh man, you got a cake job, Brian. So that one was really, really great. I loved. I read Super Forecasting recently. It was sort of mandatory reading for the business unit that I started in at Moody's, but there's definitely a lot of, I think, really good lessons in there about, this idea of forecasting and answering hard questions, and how, when presented with a hard question, we tend to substitute a similar easy question, but those aren't the same things, and so you answer an easy question, it's not the answer to the hard question, and I think that has a lot of relevance for PMs. I read, there's a couple of daily newsletters I get, Stratechery from Ben Thompson. I started on that recently. I think that, in my world, it talks a lot about Amazon, Google, Twitter, Facebook, those kind of big tech type firms. But I think there's a lot of really interesting lessons from them in digital technology products generally that you can abstract and apply to your own world. So I like that one. And then there's a podcast that I got into, and I just went deep on it. It's the podcast is called Product Talk, by a group called Products Account, and it's just, I don't know, it's fascinating. They've been doing it probably like 3 years now, so they've got a pretty decent backlog of interviews. Again, product leaders from around the spectrum. One of their recent ones was the head of digital for this Broadway company, right? And so they pull in kind of technology leaders from all these different domains, and and so again, there's sort of lessons that you can pull out from that and apply to your own business. So those are some of the resources that I kind of keep track of, and like you, I've been sort of tagging the PM world on LinkedIn, trying to find some additional ones out. There's one on systems thinking that I'm trying to track down, and yeah, so